All right, guys, so another absolute day of CS2 market insanity. Again, we are still holding over a $4 billion market cap, at least at the time of recording this video. Obviously, these things can change insanely fast, so we have no idea. We don't know. We have a little bit of an upward tick on the graph. You can see right above my head in the very top right corner right now. So we're so back at the moment, but we could be so down bad once again very, very quickly. But in this video today, I'm going to be talking about my strategy for attacking this CS2 market dip. Obviously, some of it has already happened over the past couple of days. I've been very aggressive in buying the dip. Who knows if that will age well? Who knows if that will go well, whatever. But going forward in the future, both in the short and the long term, I've had a lot of time to look at data, to get my thoughts right, and come up with my game plan for how I'm going to attack CS2 investing going forward into the future. Because obviously, things have changed. Things are different, but things are not dead. There are still very, very big opportunities. There is still money to be made. I am very, very confident in that. That is what we're going to be talking about in this video today. But of course, first, I just want to mention my Twitch stream. We have been streaming over on Twitch every single day. And after this video gets uploaded, I'm going to go live right after that. So, if you're watching this video kind of early on, you can definitely go check us out. Even if you're not, you can still follow. If you got a Prime, hit us up, whatever. I'd appreciate it a ton. The streams have been a ton of fun. We've been popping off. We're probably even going to be doing some gold trade-ups and stuff like that. We have some big plans, maybe giveaways. Who knows? Come check us out. I'd love if you guys, gave a chance and hung out with us and all that stuff. But of course, as always, as well, my cash trading business, I'm looking to, buy your CS2 skins for cash, crypto, PayPal, whatever other payment method. So if you're looking to sell your stuff, get cash out safely, effectively, and efficiently, hit me up. First link on the description on Twitter, and we can get a big deal done today. With that being said, let's get right into this video. So right now, the market's holding up okay, but everyone is talking about this rebound, this, 16% that we're up in the past 24 hours. Now, everyone is all of a sudden an economics expert. Everyone is talking about how this is a dead cat bounce. And again, I know we've talked about this in many videos already, but if you're not aware, a dead cat bounce is what happens during a downtrend in a market. A dead cat bounce is a bounce that goes up a little bit and people get trapped because people are like, oh, we hit the bottom, now we're going up, we're going back to the moon, we're going back to all-time highs, we're going even higher, whatever. But a dead cat bounce is a bounce that does not live, it dies, and you go back down and you go even lower. A lot of people are predicting that right now because they heard the phrase dead cat bounce and now they're rolling with it, or they are still under the impression that we are going to get a massive amount of new golds, influx into the market on October 30th, and that's going to crash things even lower. But I wanted to give you, since everyone, like I said, everyone wants to be an economics expert, I want to give you another term that is very, very prevalent in economics and very, very prevalent in markets and stuff like that. And this is something that I have seen firsthand time and time and time again, and this is why the public gets burnt. This is why the average person, underperforms in investing. This is why the average person, doesn't make a lot of money, doesn't get rich, whatever. But it is called buy the rumor, sell the news. I'm sure you have heard of this, but the idea here, again, from what Google is saying, or, AI, our robot overlords, what they're telling us is that buy the rumor, sell the news is an adage that describes how market prices are often driven by speculation and anticipation leading up to an event, and then can reverse once the actual news is announced. So, again, we saw an absolutely massive market crash because of this news. This changed the fundamentals of, CS in a huge way. I am not, denying that whatsoever. And we saw this generational crash. People were panicking. People did not know what the heck was going on. People didn't know if we were going to go lower. People truly did not know what was even going to happen. Now, again, there's a lot of people saying that we are going to go even lower than this once again. And for me, that just really doesn't seem to be the case. Again, the buy the rumor, sell the news here thing being that everyone is saying that on the 30th, there is going to be another leg down. Everyone's saying that on the 30th, there is going to be another crash. Everyone's saying that on the 30th, we're going to get all these new golds hitting the market. Yet, we also know that there's people researching how many new golds are being created right now, how many golds have already hit the market over the past couple of days, how many more are going to be hitting the market going in the future, and some of this is already priced in to some extent. But again, you have to keep in mind, it is not some insider secret. You're not, some CIA informant because or think or whatever that the market's going to crash on the 30th or that, we're going to be going lower. There's going to be new gold in the market, whatever. That is common knowledge. That is honestly what the average person is saying. You go on Twitter, Reddit, Discord, YouTube comments right now, whatever. Everyone is predicting a market crash on the 30th. Everyone is saving up their funds to try and buy the dip, or everyone just sitting on the sidelines because they think a lower dip is coming. performing. And again, right now we are seeing, again, some items kind of go back down today. We see, Dragonfire down 8%. We see Buzzkill down 10%. We see Hot Rod down 8%. There are some things going down, and that would kind of make sense. Things could be going down because people aren't buying right now. People who are interested in buying, they want to wait until the 30th. You want to wait until that market dip. But again, if everyone is waiting for a market dip on the 30th, and everyone knows that the market is going to dip on 30th, and everyone knows things are going to go lower, then things could potentially go lower leading up to that point. That's the kind of the buy the rumor phase. And then the sell the news phase would be that we might see the slight dip on the beginning of the 30th. We might see a little bit of a downward trend. But again, if everyone has been waiting to buy that dip and everyone has been waiting for that moment, there's going to be people who start front running that. There's going to be people who start getting ahead of that. And then that would lead to not having a market crash. So again, my thesis for how to profit during the CS2 market crash, one, is to not really even be focused on the short-term stuff too much anyway. I do want to be focused on the long term. And I think there's some very, very huge long-term CS2 investing opportunities that are out there right now. But even in the short term, you need to be prepared for both outcomes. You need to have a strategy for if, the market goes lower on the 30th. You need to have a strategy for if the market goes higher on the 30th. But also, from what I am seeing, again, and what from my experience of trading in all different kinds of markets and stuff like that would tell me is that we are more likely than not to be going up on the 30th than down. And that is what the buy the rumor, sell the news adage wants to tell us, which again directly conflicts with the dead cat bounce theory and everything that whatever that people want to throw around. But when we start to look at some of the numbers and things that are going on, again, Koenig, whatever, he's been tweeting out a lot of this different stuff. And you have to keep in mind also different cases, different weapons, different, knives and golds are going to be affected by this differently. But here is the total registered Fade knife crafts since the update. These are, the amount that has been, registered onto the float database that has been crafted. Now, I know what you're thinking, hey, that's not all of them. Float database doesn't pick up everything. Now, there was the guy in Flary Stream, very, very intelligent guy. He was saying that in his experience, what they have seen with other items in the past is that FloatDB is able to pick up about half, roughly, it's an estimate, about half of the items that are actually being created. I think they base this is off of like when the Desert Eagle Heat Treated just dropped, and then, how many you could see on Float database versus how many Desert Eagle Heat Treated were actually created. So, say all these numbers are doubled, and you will see that overall we are not seeing a huge number or percentage-wise increase to a lot of the different knives that are going on here. You have like the Talon Fade, 40 of these being created for an additional 0.57% of the overall supply being increased. Now, again, if you double that, we're still looking at a 1% overall supply increase. Now, some of these are a little bit higher, and like I said, not all these items are going to be affected the exact same. There will be winners and losers from all this, obviously, but even on the high end, something like the M9 Fade, you have maybe 200 of them being created, maybe a 3% increase to the supply. And again, we have seen a 50, 60, 70, 80%, 90% drop on some items. At some point, the math is just simply not mathing. And also, we cannot go any lower than, again, we might drop down a little bit, whatever. But again, I think even if we do start to see a drop on the 30th, I think that dip is going to be bought up very aggressively. I'm definitely going to be somebody who's going to have funds ready to go to buy up a dip that we see on the 30th or whatever. And there's so many people out there already saying that, huge, names in the CS space. And also these trades that are happening, that are, going to be happening on the 30th or whatever, they're much less likely to get reversed than the ones we saw earlier. Because again, people have talked about this. The items that are going to be hitting the market on the 30th, those are going to be people who had coverts or bought up coverts for very cheap in their inventory, hit some crazy knife, and are selling it off for huge profit. Even if the market does kind of dip or change or whatever from there, those are much likely to be reversed than people who, lost 80% of their gold's value and then it starts to go up a little bit. Those people are much more likely to reverse. So this dip even becomes much more attractive to buy up. And I know the guy in Flary's video was talking about that as well. I think that's a great point to be made. But I don't know if we can go lower than everyone panicking and everyone not knowing what was going on. Again, this update hit us out of nowhere. We were not prepared for this. We were not expecting this, anything like that. And this update drops. Everyone's panicking. It's a huge story. It's chaos, truly chaos, and everyone's going insane. And you're going to tell me we're going to go lower than peak fear, peak panic, peak unpreparedness? And now the 30th is some day that people have had 7-8 days to prepare for. Everyone has their ideas or their thoughts or opinions gathered. They have their strategy, they have their game plan or whatever, which is another thing that you absolutely need to do if you want to take advantage of being able to profit off this and everything. But again, an update that caught us off guard, with our pants down, whatever, is insanely different. And in my mind, almost assuredly not going to be able to go lower than something, where we're very, very prepared for it and we have most of the information and stuff. Again, especially when these numbers aren't even necessarily making sense. Again, here's the number of registered sport gloves that have happened since the update. Again, if you want to, you can double all of these numbers. And yes, there are some items being hit harder. Like I said, field-tested gloves definitely do not seem like the best place to be in. If you had field-tested gloves, you're probably getting hit pretty hard. And if you're buying the dip on field-tested gloves, maybe those aren't going to rebound as good. A ton of these gloves are getting, swamped in the field-tested variety. But also a ton of these gloves, factory new, minimal wear, not really much going on. Like I said, every glove, every weapon, collections are a little bit different, whatever. But some of these are not really even existing. Some of these have had 0 created. Pandora's Box, minimal wear, 0. Hedge Maze, factory new, 0. Vice, factory new, 1. So do we deserve a 50, 60, 70, 80, 90% drop on items where only 1 or 2 or a handful or whatever has even been created? And again, now the coverts, that was with cheap coverts, and that was with 10 years of coverts and supplies and skins being created. Now we have a supply that's getting crunched the hell out of on these skins, and also the prices are sky high. So it's harder than ever to do these trade ups. They're going to be super expensive, so it is getting much more difficult as time passes on as well. Lad said, for example, there's nearly 7,600 pairs of head mages in existence. The peak of trade ups will be this week. 64 extra pairs. Again, call it 128, call it 1.6% instead of 0.8% of the entire supply. If you think this is game breaking, market defining, please reconsider buying skins in the first place. We have Fast and Fairy said totally reasonable 40% drop in reaction to the 0 new pairs that have even been created. If true, absolutely laughable numbers, meaningless almost for the overall supply, which is definitely true as well. Koenig, again, he has, and like I said, things can be very different. Here we have, some numbers about the overall registered Dopplers. And yeah, Dopplers are maybe something where you might want to be a little bit more careful. Now, hey, Dopplers are expensive and popular for a reason. They look great. They're still going to be popular. They're still going to be expensive. But obviously, Dopplers can be crafted, with like battle scarred skins and stuff like that. So maybe they're not exactly the best things to go for. And yeah, some of these are getting some bigger numbers. You have stuff like the emeralds. We have 40 new butterfly emeralds, which again, maybe that's 80. You have karambits, 18. Maybe that's 36. But again, none of these numbers seem like all that alarming, and none of these are numbers where if these all hit the market, which they're not even all going to be hitting the market on the 30th, some of them have already hit the market because some of them were tradable and they were crafted, and some of them will never hit the market because people are going to keep them for play skins or collection or investments or whatever. So at the end of the day, you're talking about an even smaller of these, potentially hitting the market. Also, some very interesting things to keep in mind is that the CS2 market seems like it is stabilizing around 2023 to 2024 price levels. Again, we're only going a year or two back in time. Yes, some items are going back to like whatever, 2014 or 15 or 17 or 19, I don't even know. But the market overall, yes, golds went down, but reds went up, other skins went up, things went up, and it's just a reshifting, it's a rebalancing. It doesn't mean CS2 investing's dead. It doesn't mean CS2 is dead. It doesn't mean we can never trust Valve again. It's just something different. You had to be prepared for change. Again, CS is a market that's had insane, opportunity throughout the last decade, and with insane reward comes insane risk potential as well. And there's always been insane risk. So you just need to be allocated appropriately for the risk levels that there are. And again, people will regain trust with Valve over time. Also here, Jesus says, it blows my mind that so many people think that A, Valve is getting rid of cases, and B, Valve is getting rid of trading. Rule number one of business is that when you have something that is making you $1 billion per year, you don't pour petrol on it and set it on fire. So again, that is another reason why. And even if you do think Valve is going to get rid of cases and, slowly is phasing out cases and stuff like that because they want to go towards terminals and the armory and all that, to me, that makes cases an even better investment. That means the supply of cases we have out there is a finite supply, and rare cases are only going to get rare because guess what? People are still going to do case unboxings. Golds there's still some very expensive golds out there. There's still golds worth thousands, tens of thousands, whatever. Now you have reds that are more expensive. Now you have all the other skins that are more expensive. People can open up cases and trade and, kind of ramp them up into a gold and stuff like that. So I think that's also very interesting. Also, again, this is another thing, Shroud said Counter-Strike is cooked. And then somebody else said, Shroud's game has one player right now, which is funny. But obviously the Counter-Strike community and the Counter-Strike player base is strong. There's millions of people who have played Counter-Strike, millions of people who play Counter-Strike, millions of people who will continue to play Counter-Strike. So guess what? Those people are still going to be buying and selling skins. Those people are still going to own skins. Those people are still going to want cool skins going forward in the future. Like I said, maybe people got burned by this and maybe people lost a lot of money, but that doesn't mean going forward in the future that the market won't be different, that things can't still increase. There will still be insane investment opportunities. And again, during this dip and going forward in the future, people will still make a ton of money in CS. People will still get rich off CS2 investing, especially by making the right choices during this time period, during a generational price crash and dip. And then you also have Coco here. very respectable person in the CS2 community says, my guess is that 8 to 9 days after the update, the market will actually move up instead of down. I think the inflow from people who panic sold on day 1, 2, buying their skins back will far outweigh the supply of new knives entering the market. And again, hey, people are saying everything, and I'm not saying Coco is right for sure, but when I see what, Skin Trader 69 on Twitter with a $5 inventory, when he's saying we're going to have a dead cat bounce, and then Coco is saying, hey, he thinks things are going to go up over time, and I see videos of, people with huge inventories and people who've been around the block and people who know a lot about markets and economics and trading and stuff saying that, hey, we're probably going to be okay. People are probably over panicking. People are probably, freaking out too much. Anyone can be right. Anything can happen. It's not fact at the end of the day. You have to be prepared for all possibilities. But again, I am going to weight, some of the more intelligent people or some of the more experienced people in the market over, randoms on Twitter with an anime profile picture and 3 followers and stuff like that. That's definitely something I would recommend to you guys as well. So again, for me, the ways to potentially profit off of this CS2 market crash is to be prepared for anything, have funds ready to go, don't be over invested, don't be overly emotional, look at the data, look at what makes sense, and make decisions from there. So again, for me, I think cases are still an insane investment going forward in the future. I think, there is opportunities to buy the dip on cases right now. I think case unboxings are not going anywhere. I think that, golds are still going to be expensive and sought after. Reds are still going to have insane opportunities. I also think there's opportunities to possibly be buying, some trade up skins and stuff like that. There is still, even profitable trade ups you could be doing right now. There's, another way to maybe profit during this market crash and this new ecosystem is take advantage of all the new trade up changes. If you're somebody who can be on the front line of, discovering new trade ups or discovering new opportunities or finding the right skins that are now insane for trade ups or whatever, that is another very, very big way. But also I think buying the dip right now, as opposed to waiting on the 30th, could potentially get you lower prices as well. Because I do think once the 30th hits, especially, 30th, 31st into November, I think we're going to see prices start going back up. I think we have found the bottom of the market. And if not, I think we're pretty damn close to the bottom of the market. So I wouldn't stress too much about buying right now. I am going to be buying the dip today. I'm going to be buying the dip, if it comes on the 30th, and that's how I'm going to be positioning myself for the future in both the short term and the long term. I'm going to be setting up my long-term investments by investing in the things that I believe in the most, but I'm also going to be buying some things that I think could maybe have a little bit of a rebound in the short term as well, like golds and knives and things that are potentially oversold due to just some insane panic and insane, chaos going on in the CS2 markets right now. So we'll have to wait and see. Again, I have no idea what's going to happen. I'm prepared for everything, but if I had to bet, if I had to put my money where my mouth is, I'm buying the dip right now, and I think, we're not going to see a new low that gets set in on the 30th. I think we've already seen the lows from this CS2 crash market cycle. We'll have to wait and see what happens. And again, if things do go lower, guess what? That's fine too. I'm going to be prepared for that, and I'm going to be ready to go. But that is pretty much it for this video today, guys. Hopefully catch you in the next one. Until then, peace.